So while we're waiting, I'm going to turn on Susan's microphone. How are you doing today, Susan?
Thank you, Jeanie. How did you? I didn't have my hand up, did I?
No, you did not, but I always can depend on you to talk to me.
Oh, I'm happy to talk to you, always. Well, I wasn't going to call in. Well, maybe I was. I have a couple of questions, but I'm having a hard time. I've been depressed, and so I know I have work to do, So,
and depression is anger turned inwards, remember?
Yep, I can see why I might be. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Worksheets on what's triggering your anger. Did you have any success talking with your son about doing work around the conversation that we had the other day?
I did, and he's about to go away, but I said, would you be up for working with Michael? And of course, he hasn't called, partly because he's going to go away, but he said yes. But, that can change. I mean, he'll say, let's walk tomorrow morning. I really need to walk. Come up and be really insistent, and I'll go up and get the dog, and I'll say, okay, I'm here. And you say, I got to sleep, and I don't push. I just say, okay, and I go out the door, and I'm fine with that. And he'll regret it later, but that's my unhooking from codependent. Before I would urge him to get up, I'd pester him to get up, and this is ridiculous. He's a 52-year-old man, or almost. So,
and he's going through kind of a depression too, and sleep and staying in bed is his way of coping with it. So, you working on your part of the depression may open the window for him as well.
Yeah, and I've been good. I've really, to be off all meds and to be okay, and it's just, I took a nosedive for a while.
Yeah.
And I often wonder, I wake up in the night and I have, my unfiltered thoughts, and they're not very friendly. My daughter said, Mom, those are demons. I thought, yep, that's what they feel like. But I've never really put the two together, so I don't tend to believe in separate demons. Go ahead, Jeanie, sorry.
And our demons is what's inside of us that we haven't dealt with. It's not that it's, like the devil. And so, maybe jot them down and then breathe and let them go. Say, I'll look at this in the morning. I cancel it for tonight to try to figure it out. And, that might help you go back to sleep.
Yeah.
I think we've suggested before, we always drink a cup of lemon balm tea at night before we go to sleep, and it helps to relax.
Oh, good.
Of course, we grow our own lemon balm, and I'll be glad to send you some.
Oh, that's so nice of you. You don't need to do that, Jeanie. Don't they have lemon balm tea, or is that an herb you can buy?
They do. They actually, when we went through a kind of a dry spell, which right now we've got lots of it, but I had ordered lemon balm tea on Amazon that comes in little round tea bags.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, you can buy it online as well. And Michael's joined us now. He might have something else to add to that.
Yeah.
So Susan, is life still giving you opportunities to learn forgiveness?
I know. I didn't get to hear most of Dr. Tim's. I know. Dr. Tim's show was, what little I heard was like, okay, that's amazing. It's right. Perfect. The fact that everything is an opportunity, pretty much everything that isn't pure joy is an opportunity to learn something, and it's my stuff. I get it. I'm just in it right now, that's all. So, yeah.
Well, would you like to share some details and see if we can help you crack it?
Oh, thank you. I talk so much on the shows. If somebody, okay, Jeanie,
and it's appreciated.
Just promise. I know, but I do appreciate that you appreciate it, and I just grab every opportunity. But
so go for it.
I hope if somebody puts a hand up, though.
If they do, I'll let you know. But right now, you're the only one on.
All right. Well, Michael, Jonathan would like to work with you, but I have said that before with Luke, for instance, who keeps saying he wants to work with you, but he doesn't do it. So there's some voting with the feet. That's, you know.
Well, that's okay. I understand. I have called
Yeah.
Luke a couple of times, and he hasn't called me back, but that's okay.
Okay.
I can be persistent. It might be tomorrow, and it might be 2 years from now. Doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
When somebody's ready, they'll be ready.
Well, I suppose I could start by just saying I have made it one of my goals. When I go for my morning walk, I see many people that I now know, and some of them I know what side of the fence they are politically, and two of them are definitely supporters of Trump, and they're people I like very much. So I thought, okay, time to talk. So I said to the first one, who's a lawyer, and I said, you must be feeling pretty good. And he said, I am. I said, are you relieved? And he said, oh, I am. So I said, well, tell me what you're feeling about that and what's your thought? And, oh, well, he's going to stop all these wars and he's going to get rid of all the criminals and he's going to make the economy better, and I'm so glad about that. And I say, well, I should think you'd probably feel pretty good about some of those things. And I say, my topmost issue is climate change. And I know your candidate, the winner now, is not too good on that. And he agreed. He said, oh, yeah, I'm terrified about the climate business. So that's about as far as we got. So we found common ground there, and we talked about recycling.
Nice.
And we left really smiling, and I felt really, I kept without any difficulty, the space of love and conscious, active, present love. That's what it was. And the second one was similar. He's an artist.
Before you go to the second one?
Yeah. Okay.
Just a thought to offer. I don't know if you've seen the article I posted on Facebook about climate change, but it comes from the perspective of the number 2 killer of children on planet Earth is asthma and lung disorders.
Oh, yeah.
Fossil fuels, primarily fossil fuels. Mm-hmm. That might be something to inject into the equation as, do you ever think about that? And then, of course, the number 1 killer is guns
Yeah, and
we have a Supreme Court that just said a 100-year-old law in New York, to heck with it, let them carry guns.
Right.
It's just a little bizarre.
And the second guy, who's an artist, belongs to a gun club, and he actually said, oh, I got to get home. I've got to get to my gun meeting. So we didn't touch on that. He's an artist. Right. So I said, well, you're an artist, so the economy probably touches you a lot. And he said, yeah, I had all these gigs, and suddenly people weren't hiring me. And he thought it was because of the Biden administration. I think it's because of the pandemic, and it would probably happen to anybody, because he goes to studios and films and photographs dancers, beautiful young girls, and they're breathing in these closed rooms because they're dark, and I think they called off a lot of that. But I didn't want to argue with him. I just wanted to hear what he had to say. So that's what he said. He said, the economy hasn't been good for me. I've really noticed it, and I'm hoping that this will turn around. And I said, well, we'll see. And we will. We'll see. And so, but that was the second good conversation, and I feel just one-on-one, this is good, yeah. But I have to give up the goal of changing their minds. I can ask them questions. What do you think about this or that? And when he said the Democrats really blew it here and there, sometimes I agreed with him. We could have done better on some things, like, and I could go into it. It's not a big deal.
Sure.
One man who's my daughter was telling me, she had a discussion with him, very bright professor, eminence in her cathedral, and she said she was disturbed about the election. And he said, look, there aren't any uncorrupt politicians at all. So whichever way you go, you're going to get corruption. And my daughter reported this to me as if she agreed with him. And I really don't think that's true. I think we have some wonderful, honest dedicated people in there. Oh, man. So anyway, so, Michael, there's nothing, I know what I need to do. You've given me the tools, and a mind shifter might be better. But anyway, I didn't push number one. Jeanie was just, I guess, eager to have somebody to talk to, and I love it when you do that, because I always want to know how you're doing and what's up and everything that's going on. So,
well, I think that one of the most harmful things going on the planet is false equivalency, or going on in the country is false equivalency. And yes, there are corrupt and negative side of the fence people in all persuasions. I don't care whether it's business or church or government or whatever, politicians. But I think the equivalency between drill baby drill and voluntary removal of our neighbors, there is no equivalency to that. There just isn't. And you've heard me say it before. I think we could easily. I understand why there's so much corruption. I would be, remiss if I didn't admit that if I were in one of those positions, I might be as corrupt as anybody else. Because, geez, stresses happen, financial challenges happen for everybody, politicians included. And gee, if every other day there's an opportunity to pick up an extra 10 grand with nobody knowing, and an extra 20 grand, and then an extra 50 grand, and the price keeps, I can understand how people fall into that. I mean, it would be a challenge not to. And so I think if we passed a very simple law throughout the land that says anybody who's caught cheating for even 5 cents on the taxpayer's dime goes to prison for life, that's all, not punishment, simply as a deterrent, then anybody who gets those temptations, which, I understand how strong it would be, then they'd certainly think twice. If I get caught with this, I'm going to prison for life. It would be a deterrent. Again, not punishment. They don't even need to go to some, horrible, dirty place, Rikers or what have you. I've been in Rikers prison. I've worked there, and it's horrendous. Don't need to threaten. Don't need to punish. Just this would be your result. I think we could easily eradicate 99.9% of the corruption that happens, and sadly, it certainly happens on both sides. But the false equivalency, I think, there's just no comparison.
Well, I agree with you, and I'll have a little chat with my daughter. I think she respects this man so much that she was kind of snowed under for the moment, but I'm sure she'll come around. Yeah.
Well, anything else we can do to serve you today?
Well, I had a good talk with my son. He's willing to look at the childhood abuse issue. And we've had a really good talk about addiction, the difference between addiction and appreciation. Because in his case, he's got an addiction to feelings, lustful feelings toward young women. But we have talked about how, well, he really picks good ones. The ones he chooses are beautiful. They're beautiful. I agree. They're gorgeous. And can we appreciate something that's beautiful without getting that hook, without the trigger? And he said, that's the exact line. And I think about that, because these beautiful people deserve appreciation. It's God put them there. What a piece of work, And I think of it in terms of, I have to use your words, cherishing someone else, and the fine line between cherishing someone else, strongly cherishing someone else, and have it not be an addictive trigger. And so I'm walking the tightrope here, watching which side I'm on. And as soon as, I had a little interchange this morning, I was working at the soup kitchen, there were no lights on. The whole electrical was gone. So we get 100 refugees into a dark space. I can't make coffee or tea for them. I had brought fruit and a little snacks for them. Why am I telling you this? I lost my thought.
We're talking about the cherishing
I got it.
people for their beauty.
Yeah, well, I got to I was going to make an illustration. There's a young woman who works in my parish, and she's a singer, and I've written 2 chancel operas for her with her voice in mind, not for her like a love thing, but just she'd be perfect for this. And I admire her very much, but I want her to like me and like my composing too. And she's very reticent. I pick them, Michael. It's the matching bags of garbage all the way. I pick a person who's not going to say what I want them to say. She's just going to be in herself. She'll do a beautiful job, but I'm not going to get much in the way of, wow, that was so beautiful. I loved working on it. You know, that doesn't ever happen. So what's the problem? I still want it. I still have that goal. But it's minimized to the point where I'll say, oh, there it is again, bye, and I go about my life. But I'm still doing it. And that was my addiction question yesterday. Aren't we always addicts? And so far, I'd have to say yes.
No, aren't we always love? Yes. That's the only answer yes applies to. Do we sometimes, or do we oftentimes, or until we heal it, do we play in the realm of addiction? Yes. Are we addicts? No. That'd be the danger line we cross. You know, whatever I put the words I am in front of, I'm claiming energetically as mine. And I think it's a mistake to claim things that you're not, because the truth about your and my and every other human being's true essence is that we're made of the stuff called love.
Mm.
And as far as, appreciating beauty, there's a fine line between appreciating beauty and the roving eye.
Yeah,
we live in a culture, when it comes to sexuality, we live in a culture that's told us, you can look, but you better not touch.
Yeah.
Yeshua addressed this issue very clearly. Back in, those times, the bath for the house was outdoors, and something that men would do would be they'd get on the roof of their house to ogle the neighbor woman.
Mm-hmm.
And Yeshua, clarified that one. He said, the thought was, well, I can look, but I'm not going to touch, and then it's okay. And he said, no, if you've done it in your mind, you've done it.
Yeah.
And so is the appreciation of beauty simply the appreciation of beauty, or is it in the mind, is it, and I'd like some?
Yeah.
If it's I'd like some, then better find some tools to clean up your mind, because my offering is we do not have the right to be in the intimate space of any other human being without the invitation and permission to be there. We simply don't have it. And if the mind has been programmed with it's okay, and we go there without permission, then I think we've violated an energetic law. And we just, it's self-destructive.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if sexuality has been treated as an addiction, or as been practiced as an addiction.
Mm.
I feel bad about myself, and if somebody would just go, oh, look how wonderful you are, then I'd be okay. Then that becomes an addiction, and there's where the next piece of work would be if that were the case. Yeah.
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 You connected what happened to my son with that trigger activity that he has now. I don't understand how you connected it with what happened with my sister, with him, and what he does. Oh, you asked the question, ask him if he in turn does some version of inappropriate sexual approaching or looking or whatever he does.
Right.
And I asked him that, and he said, "Oh yeah, I do." And but I don't. He asked me back, "Is that where it came from?" And I couldn't answer that.
Well, if it's a power person dynamic, absolutely. And remember, once a power person dynamic is installed, until that is uncovered and forgiven, removed, then when ultra stressed, we'll do what our power person did to us that we hated the most. So if I was in a position where I was being sexually abused by someone and I hated it, or I hated myself for it, then under stress, that's what I will tend to turn to. And so if that's what he's doing, if it's not just appreciating beauty, oh, there's a beautiful form, isn't that nice? But if his mind can't refrain from going the next step, then my offering would be that would be the place for the next level of healing.
That's where, okay.
It's the power person dynamic playing out.
Yeah, I hope he'll choose to work with you on it.
And I energetically violate them as well of myself when I do that.
Yeah. Oh boy. What a life.
Even if the behavior, the behavior looks harmless out here. Oh, well, I just turned my eyes, so what? But if I turn my eyes out of the unresolved pain of being sexually abused, then turning my eyes reinforced the aberrant energy in my tissue structure and strengthens my disease. If I apply forgiveness, then I weaken my disease. I remove the energy of that dis-ease.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. That's good. Thank you.
Honored and delighted.
Well, I feel a lot better too. Who knows?
Next layer.
Thank you.
Who knows? We're with you.
Thanks.
So any other thoughts?
No, I'll just listen. Thank you, Michael. Jeanie.
Okay, dear heart. You have a blessed one.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Bye-bye. Miss Jeanie.
We do not have another hand up, but we did have a question that came in the other day. And
last week, yes.
Yeah, so
yes.
Let me find it here. So they said, concerning disease and food, does food not cause disease at all? What about a super unhealthy diet?
Okay. So my offering would be food neither is the cause for disease, nor is it the cure for disease, ever. Now, we need to go back behind the energy system, because in order to work through any given issue, we have to be able to look at the underlying root. We can't just work at the surface branches. If we're going to uproot whatever this dis-ease process is, I have to go to the taproot, address it, and remove it. Elsewise, I'm, rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. So the person who, assuming all things are equal, there's decent food available, there's trash food available. Now, there's another depth to it. Gee, if you went into a totally desperate community where there's no food available, there's only garbage to eat, basically, is that going to cause disease? Well, there are going to be disease processes likely as a result of that, and yes, you can still go to the underlying issues beyond that. But I'm assuming that this question comes from someone in this culture that has the choices for decent food or the garbage of the culture. And my take is that if I am let me back up and let me talk about a situation where I watched an addiction for someone heal, and this was an alcohol addiction. This goes back, 35 years ago. And there was a woman I worked with in South Florida, and her husband was Joe, wealthy businessman. She was Mrs. Housewife, a couple of kids at home. And every night he would work late, He'd get home, the kids would be in bed or getting ready for bed. She'd have dinner on. They'd have, by her description, 2 or 3 drinks, a bottle of wine with dinner, and 2 or 3 drinks after dinner. And that was a 7-night-a-week. That was their regular mode of operation. She said, I'm not an alcoholic, but, I just, that's what we do. And after we started to talk about addiction and healing and such, she decided to leave alcohol alone, to just leave alcohol out of her life. It had been a period of, I'm not even sure now, it might have been 2 years, it might have been 4 years. It was a fairly lengthy time that she, having quit alcohol as a result of starting to do this work, shared with me in a private session that she had been at a party. She hasn't touched alcohol in, again, I don't remember, 2, 3, maybe 4 years. She hadn't touched alcohol in a long time, and somebody offered her a drink of hard liquor, and she decided to accept it. And she said that alcohol, I put it to my lips, it no more than got past my lips, and it felt like razor blades in my kidneys. So having abstained from alcohol for that time period, and I would offer having abstained from her addiction, she did her work around whatever that addiction was for her, and she was able to feel. And this would be, my take would be this would be energetically, because she said it no more than got past her lips. I mean, she hadn't swallowed it. It just got in her mouth, and she could feel it in her kidneys. So to me, that says she was feeling the energy of what she was about to do, or the resonance of a memory in tissue from the presence of alcohol in her mouth. And she spit it out, and she didn't drink it. So my offering is, if we are in wholeness, if there's not something we're trying to hide from ourselves, then if we go to something like a junk diet or alcohol or drugs or what have you, we feel the toxic effects of it, and we'd say, no way, that's not, spit that out. I don't want anything to do with that. When we apply this in the arena of food, if someone is offered food that is toxic to the system, if there's nothing they're hiding, like for instance, sugar is probably one of the most destructive substances on planet Earth. White refined sugar. That, along with, or probably a good parallel with it is, and maybe even a little worse, is high fructose syrups. So if one is totally alive, totally vital, totally in tune, and they took that in their mouths, they'd spit it out and would say, I want nothing to do with it. So my offering would be, before someone would accept that, become addicted to it, and use it as a regular habit, there's a disease process already going on in the system. And so taking in that toxic food does not cause the disease. It is a symptom of the disease. Now, there are people who their whole shtick is change your diet and you'll heal, because poor food causes illness. My offering is poor food. It does not cause illness. It's a symptom of illness. And so if I change my diet, do I heal? If I upgrade my diet, do I heal because I'm eating better food? Or am I no longer using food to suppress and dissociate from the energetic pattern of my disease? And when I am able to touch into that energetic pattern, and in the presence of love work through it, I free myself of my disease. So if I'm in a disease process and I'm gobbling down all kinds of garbage in order to keep that dis-ease, that energy that I don't want to deal with, hidden in myself, once I step into willingness and go, well, I know that a part of the sickness process is poor dietary regimen, so I'm going to improve my dietary regimen. When I improve my dietary regimen, I'm going to build my vitality. When I build my vitality, I'm going to get to see some of the things I really need to deal with. Did the food heal? I healed. Did the food heal me? No. But the food vitalized me sufficiently, or the refusal to take in, in this case, alcohol, that toxic alcohol, allowed me to look at what was beneath the surface that otherwise I was suppressing and hiding. So my offering would be that a decent dietary regimen, and the higher the dietary regimen, the faster the healing is going to occur. But it's not going to occur because of the food. It's going to occur because the food is going to help to restore the vitality that allows us to deal with the energetic patterns beneath any disease process. So that would be my take. Poor diet doesn't cause disease. Good diet doesn't heal disease. But poor diet is a factor in deterioration, and a healthier diet is a factor in healing. And there are many factors. You know, if you've ever been in the opening night in an intensive at Heartland or wherever we've been when we've done an intensive, you'll remember that I talk about the vitality meter. Imagine we've got a vitality meter. It goes from 1 to 10. If I'm at a level 10 vitality, I'm firing on all cylinders. Everything is rocking. There is no possibility that anything toxic could appeal to me. In that state, a level 10, a level 9 energy, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 2, 1, would just be repulsive. Get it out of my face. Don't want anything to do with it. But if I'm at, let's say, a level 5 vitality, and I have a level 7 toxin, there's what I call a built-in suppress mechanism that if I were to unravel the level 7 toxicity in my system, and I only had a level 5 vitality, I could do myself great harm. So there's this built-in shutdown mechanism. If you're at a level 7 or level 5 vitality and you have a level 7 toxin, you're not going to see that level 7 toxin. The system is not going to yield it up to you until you get to a level 7.5 vitality. So as you do your work and you vitalize, you get from a 5 to a 6, and hey, I'm feeling pretty good. You get to a level 7, I'm feeling great. You get to a level 7.5, you go to bed at night, man, I feel so great. This is so wonderful. I'm so glad I've changed my dietary regimen. I'm doing my work. This is great. I feel awesome. And you get up in the morning and you wonder if anybody got the number of the Mack truck to enjoy your room during the night. It's like, what's wrong with this picture? I'm doing all the right things. Look at that wonderful food I've been eating. Yeah, that's right. You've been doing all the right things. And you know what that means? That means you've built your vitality, and you're going to get to look at the next level of what you need to look at. It's going to move in you. It's going to break loose. And so, you know, the opening night of intensives, I always talk about the factors. And what I've noticed is that if you introduce, you know, there are many, many, many factors involved in keeping this energy system vital and alive. There's how you use water, there's how you use food, there's how you breathe, there's how you think, there are all kinds of things that are involved. And if you shift somebody a huge distance in any one factor, there tends to be a swing back effect. You know, somebody goes on retreat and they eat wonderful food for 9 days, and they go out and they junk themselves out. Or they know they're going to go into a retreat and they're going to eat wonderful food, so they decide to junk themselves up before they go. And so when somebody comes and does an intensive and say we do a total fresh and raw dietary regimen at an intensive, I don't suggest people who are meat eaters, and we do a vegan dietary regimen in our intensives. I don't suggest people who are meat eaters, who drink, who eat all kinds of cooked food, go after a 9-day intensive and say, wow, this is great, I'm going to do this, because one, the swing back effect and the detox can be pretty intense. It's something that one needs to take time to move into. And so one of the things that I work to do in the intensive is introduce many factors. If I move 0.0, you know, let's say in order to get this big issue handled, I need to move 1 point in my vitality. But if I do it just with diet, next week I'm liable to swing back in the opposite direction and do more damage than good. But if I do a 0.02 change in my breathing, if I do a 0.03 change in my thinking, I do a 0.2 change in my dietary regimen, and altogether I get a 1 change in vitality, that change is probably going to stick. That's probably going to be mine forever. But if I make big shifts in just one area, the tendency is, that's not an absolute, but the tendency is to swing back. That's why we introduce many, many factors in the intensive, so that if somebody takes a hold of a piece of each one, then they'll tend to generally move forward in their process, and over time they'll be able to move deeper and deeper levels in each arena, adding many factors together to, over a period of time, shift their lives dramatically. So that would be my take on the dietary regimen. Any other thoughts for you come up on that one, Jeanie?
No, that's perfect. So if anybody that's on the switchboard has a question, press 1. It puts a hand up. Oh, a hand just went up. I believe it's Dusty, cool. 904. You're on the air.
Well, aloha, everybody. I hope you're well.
Aloha, young man. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I have a question for you, which
awesome.
You may have answered in the past in 27 different ways, but in the New King James and equivalent Bibles, there's some kind of phrase, and this isn't exactly right, that goes, I of myself, it's Yeshua talking, I of myself can do nothing, it's the Father within me.
The Father within me does the works.
Yes,
yeah.
So I wonder if you, anything in Aramaic or in your understanding that you could talk about that.
Yeah. Do you know how to raise your arm?
Got it. It's up.
No, just a minute now. I didn't ask you if you could raise your arm. I asked if you knew how to raise your arm.
Right, and then I took it upon myself to raise it anyway. But okay, all right. Yes,
okay.
I can.
So do you know how to raise your arm?
Affirmative.
You can do it, but do you know how?
Yes.
I don't think you do.
You don't think I do what?
No, I don't think you know how to raise your arm at all. I don't think there's one person in the world who knows how to raise their arm. We do it, but if I said, okay, so what I want you to do, Dusty, is I want you to explain to me what brain cells are going to fire in what area of the brain, what nerve pathways are they going to follow through what parts of the structure, and to what muscles, and what's the balance and counterbalance going to be on the 47 muscles involved in raising your arm. Do you know how to raise your arm? I don't.
Well,
the truth is none of us have a clue.
To even try, right? Exactly.
Yeah, we'd be have to sleep in order to try to figure it out. So there is a power in us that does it all. There is one actor in the universe, and Yeshua referred to that actor as the Father, the power within, the Creator, that says to us, ask me and I'll give it to you. So we're given the ability to discern and to ask, and then something moves, like, do I know how to attract the result of anything that I want? No, but if I happen to focus on something, chances are, boy, it's going to show up in my space. How did that happen? Well, there's an energetic law of resonance, and energy moves, and it follows thought. And so, and on the opposite side of the scale, to me, this kind of verifies the truth of it. The scriptures also say, shall there be evil in the city, and the Lord has not done it? In other words, it's saying the Creator does evil. And that's right, it's true. Of course, we call it evil. It's just energy moving, whatever it is. But there's only one acting force in the universe, and that acting force, my offering would be, that acting force has said, I've run the whole show until now, and now I'm going to turn it over to you. You tell me what you want, and I'll produce it. I'll bring it about. So I think that's what he was referring to, is the power within that does it all. He called the Father and said, it responds to our requests. Careful what you ask for.
Right. Yeah, that sounds right. And interestingly enough, I had a sister, half-sister, I did not even know about until 20 years ago, who sent me this little piece of cardboard I keep on my little meditation altar, and it's from the King James, but I kind of like it. It says, and it sounds like what you just said in one of your phrases, and I wonder if you would, whatever. Anyways, whatever it says, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours.
Yes. And energetically, from a point of view of physics, if I say, well, I want $1 million, and this is one of the reasons why we have the mind shifter tool, because we have this pesky thing called the unconscious. You see, I can want something in my head, but if my heart says, if my generational patterns, if my genes say, no, that can't ever happen for you, I can ask for it till the cows come home. But I'm not going to be able to be living as though that's going to come about. It's interesting, in the Aramaic language, the word that would be translated as manifest, as in our culture we hear people, I'm going to manifest a new car, I'm going to manifest this, I'm going to manifest all these things. In Aramaic, the word manifest would be tied into this whole idea of an energy system, and a more appropriate parallel translation of that word would be obvious. So if I ask for, I want $1 million, and I come from 1,000 generations of deep poverty, then it's not obvious to me that $1 million is coming down the pike. And there's no way I'm going to be able to set up a vibration, a field that will bring that about, because it's not obvious to me. But if in my whole energy system, right down to including my genes, I know that I'm deserving, I know that the universe can provide it, and all of that aligns, then it becomes obvious to me, and the minute that I bring that particular energetic request in, the energetic universe of resonance responds. And it is obvious, it is manifest. Person who's told they're a piece of crap in relationships and go through all this, I want a wonderful relationship, and when somebody shows up, what they're going to get is what they've resonated into their space. And again, that's the reason we have that mind shifter tool, so that when I say, here's what I want to create, is there a part of me that makes it so abhorrent for that to come to me that even if it tried to come into my space, I'd find a way to push it away. I'd ignore it. I'd refuse it. I'd, shove it away. The mind shifter, the idea of the mind shifter, is to open the veil of the temple, the barrier between the subconscious and the unconscious, and find the places in me that have a different idea than the one I'm asking for in my head. Remember, they said, take care of the heart, for out of it are the issues in life. If all I can do is put it in my head, but there's something conflicting in my heart, then it's not obvious to me, and it's not going to manifest.
Right. So kind of the heart is the center. Well, how would you define the difference between, I realize they're just unconscious mind and the subconscious mind. How do you what would you say is the difference or the similarities there?
Okay. Well, people talk about mind as though there are all kinds of different, there's the conscious, the subconscious mind, the unconscious mind. I made up my mind, I lost my mind, all those things that go along. But I'm going to interrupt. I'm just going to interrupt for just a second. I sing a song with a friend who's crazy as me, and it's called Out of My Mind. So, yeah. Yeah. That's the healing space. That's the healing space. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. We call, no, you're right on track. We call what fires in brain cells inside of us the function of mind. And so using that as our culture generally uses the word, I'll speak in terms of that, but it really isn't a mind. All it is a resonating machine or device. So my take would be that when energy moves inside of us in the realm of what people call mind, there are 3 levels of it operating. There's what we're conscious of, there's what we're not conscious of, and then there's what we're able to be conscious of. And so one
nice.
would be unconscious, one would be subconscious, and the other would be conscious. And it all has to do with the amplitude at which that energy is moving within us.
I would like to say that back again because I like that.
Yeah, go ahead.
The conscious, the unconscious, and that which is able to be conscious.
The subconscious, conscious, subconscious, unconscious. So whatever's unconscious in me, I have no access to.
Oh,
whatever
okay.
is,
That's
I have no direct access to.
Unconscious, okay.
That's why it's called the unconscious.
But the subconscious we do.
The subconscious is what's available to me, but I'm not aware of it right now. So if I say, don't think about the color of your car.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
A minute ago, there was no thinking about your car. That was subconscious information. I provided a resonant frequency. It turned the volume up, so to speak, the amplitude in those brain cells, and you became aware of that subconscious information. If I said, what's your favorite item of clothing? That's in your subconscious, and you become aware of it. And I say, what's the front door of your house look like? And that's information that's in the subconscious, and now you become aware of it, but you're not thinking about the color of your car. Oh, now the color of your car. So subconscious and conscious are changing places all the time. It would be like, a good comparison would be like I have a radio in front of me, and it's tuned to 900 on the dial, and the volume is turned down. It's in there, but it's not available to me. That would be subconscious. I turn the volume up, and bingo, there it is.
Oh, good analogy. I like that.
Now, if I leave the radio tuned to 900 on the dial and I turn the power off, 900 is still in there, but there's no way to access it.
Right.
It's just not available. And that would be the unconscious. Carl Jung said,
is there no way to access the unconscious except through the Father, or how does that work if it works?
Direct access is what we're talking about.
Right. I mean, I understand you. I love what you're saying about the conscious and the subconscious, blah blah, mad. The unconscious you're saying cannot be accessed, or if it can, how is it?
I have no direct access to it. For instance, if I'm in denial, let's say there's an old anger in me, and along comes Dusty, and he gives me the look. And Dusty resonates my anger.
I'm good at that.
And because I'll cancel that thought. Because I'm dissociated from my own anger, when Dusty resonates my anger, I use that anger to build my brain's image of him, and a picture shows up in my mind of Dusty with my anger attached, and I say, you really made me angry. I am in touch with my unconscious anger. Oh, hold on. Let me throw out a few thoughts before we
no,
shift the energy.
You said it.
So when I say you made me angry, I'm now using my anger to build my brain's image of you. You show up in my mind with my anger attached, and I'm sure that you're the cause of my anger. So that anger I'm in touch with, but I'm not directly in touch with it. I'm in indirect touch with it. Like it's yours, your fault. Where the most powerful way I know to get in direct contact with your own unconscious dynamics, and if you go back to Yeshua thousands of years ago, he said, take care of the heart, which would be our code word for the unconscious, for out of it are the issues in life. So he's saying you've got to enter your own unconscious to clean it up. Carl Jung says until the unconscious becomes conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. In other words, you think it's happening inside of you. Say it again?
you're equating unconscious in some ways to the heart. Did I get that right?
When Yeshua, when the scriptures talk about take care of the heart, for out of it are the issues in life,
Yes.
we would properly substitute the word unconscious there for the word heart.
Oh, okay. So that's accessing the Father or the divine force or whatever as well, right?
No, there's a little piece in there that's still missing, and that would be
Okay.
that take care of the heart. Remember, the request or the way the Father works is ask. So
Yeah.
if I hold something unconscious and that unconscious information moves in me, that becomes my asking of the Father. But if it's anger in the situation that I just laid out, I'm in indirect contact with it, and it's your fault that I'm experiencing this anger. What Yeshua did was showed how to get directly into the unconscious, and that was to look at the goal that I held for you to behave in a certain way, to forgive, to cancel that goal, which would collapse the construct of my mind that uses my unconscious data to build my brain's image of you. When that collapses, that false image that I'm indirectly in touch with the root of my anger, when that collapses, it collapses in on its own footprint, and now I'm directly in touch with my own unconscious.
Right.
If I'm breathing, if I'm bringing love present, then the unconscious dynamic in myself begins to dissolve in that situation. And that's called healing.
What if I want to bring in something, let's say more joy, the feeling of joy in my heart, my life, my body, my everything, using the unconscious? How would that work, for instance?
Well, my take would be our natural state as human beings is that.
Well, yes.
You know, if you look at a newborn, if its belly's full and its diaper's empty, joy is its natural state. That is our natural state.
Agreed.
So if I'm not experiencing that kind of joy, then what I'd want to do is start to forgive, start to go into my own unconscious dynamics where I hold that whatever it is I am experiencing, the hostility, the fear, the sadness, the grief, the hopelessness, the helplessness, whatever it is, and I'd want to begin to apply forgiveness there to remove those energies that are overlaid on my joy.
Okay, so I get it. Okay, I get you. Rather than ask for something directly, sometimes you assume it's there already, like that. And
that's our natural state.
I get it. Yes, and so it's more removal. It's like me having to take my teeth out so that my sepsis would go away.
It's called forgiveness. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Forgiveness. Yes, indeed. Okay.
So,
go ahead.
So just let's take it a step further. So if you go to the opening words in the book of John, where we're told it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word became flesh. It's not what it says. In Aramaic, it says, in the beginning was the mind energy, and the mind energy became flesh. When I think a thought, I create a microcurrent in my structure. You know, we've all seen videos of the picture of, let's say, neurons firing, and what do you see? You see bolts of lightning, you see bolts of energy moving between neurons. Literally, there are microcurrents. And we have this beautiful gift called emotions that tell us what the microcurrents are doing to us. So if I engage in mind energy, literally a frequency that is going to become physiologically embedded in my structure, and it's destructive to me, then the microcurrents are going to warn me, ouch, this hurts, don't go there. If I choose to forgive those energetic patterns, reach in, breathe, and dissolve those energetic patterns, then the microcurrents that inhibit my natural joy or the microcurrents that cause pain in me will begin to dissolve. And as I spend, and you've heard me say this before, every morning before you get out of bed, rather than I have to rush off and, in case that something inside of me that's chasing me is going to catch me, I have to rush off and start to do. Take time, cultivate your state of being in your relationship with love, and purposely, consciously, literally get the microcurrents of active present love moving in your cellular structure. And the natural joy that is our birthright becomes our natural state, would be my offering.
That's beautiful. So in a nutshell, then move even from the first part of the morning from that state of love and joy rather than do, if
exactly.
possible. Gotcha.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And if there's
Michael,
pain somewhere within your structure, consciously, purposely source the mind energy connected to active present love and instill it in that tissue. And feel the microcurrents that start to move that bring healing and joy from a tissue level.
Right. I've had to do a lot of a variation of that with this last year through the process, that I've been going through.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And if it hadn't been for some of what you have said, although I love the way you have articulated it, I really do. I don't know that I would have made it, So it's
well, I'm
powerful.
glad you're still with us.
Well, thank you. And that's me knocking on wood just 'cause, but I'm getting significantly better. I've been in the ocean the last 2 or 3 days when it's been pretty fierce out, and I just out there having a ball.
All right.
Yeah. So God is good in that way. Well, thank you for that answer.
I'm just doing a look. Just give me a second here.
Sure.
There's a paleontologist that I studied with years ago, or studied his work. His name is Teilhard de Chardin. Pierre Teilhard de Chardin.
I've heard it.
And he was actually a Catholic priest and a paleontologist.
Yeah.
And I'm not remembering the name of his slide production. I think it's available. I'm just looking. I think I might have found it on YouTube. I'm not sure whether this is it or not, but if you go to YouTube, if you put in the eco-spirituality of Teilhard, Teilhard, space DE, space Chardin, Chardin. There's one of his presentations there, and I'm not sure that's the one I'm talking about. But anyway, one of the things that he comes up with as a paleontologist Catholic priest, which is a pretty interesting combination of professions, is he has a definition for joy, and he says that joy is the infallible sign of the presence of God.
Oh, the infallible sign.
The sign of the presence of God. Now,
that's beautiful.
I adjust that by just one word, because if that were actually true, everybody would be in joy all the time, because if we got out of the presence of the Creator, we wouldn't exist. So obviously that presence is always there. Why aren't we always in joy? And so just a slight adjustment, joy is the infallible sign of the awareness of the presence of God, of the Creator.
Yeah, bingo. I'm
and when we're there, physiologically, the physical body produces joy just by being in that energy. But if we have microcurrent ideas of rage and guilt and fear and blame and hatred and vengeance and whose fault it is and all of that, we can create all kinds of microcurrents that cause pain, disease, and suffering in our own physiology. And so if we've got a different idea than being tapped into that presence of love, then we get to play it out. And that's where our choice lies. And
So
forgiveness, if we've got habitual patterns from generations and generations and generations of hostility or fear, it's the forgiveness, the removal of those microcurrents, literal microcurrents in the cell that create pain. The removal of those leaves us in our natural state.
And so
the presence of love produces
the thing that
physiological
you
joy.
came up with then is that the awareness of the presence of God naturally brings joy. Is that what?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. That's what I
Teilhard
thought
was
you said.
the infallible sign of the presence of God is joy.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
infallible sign of the
I like
presence
the way
of
you
God
put it.
is the
Yes.
awareness.
Yes, I love that. In fact, I think I'm going to. I try to operate that way anyway, but I get whoops. You know, when you remember.
I'll join you on taking it to the next level.
Yeah, I appreciate the reminder and the refinement on that. Thank you.
Yeah, well, there's that old saying that it can be a challenge to remember that the objective was to drain the swamp when you're up to your bippy and alligators.
Yeah.
So joining you and being in the true devotion.
Thank you, my brother, and God bless God by any name for meaning everybody that's listening.
All right, have a blessed one.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Have the best year yet of your eternal life. It's an awesome gift.